Hello, everyone. My name is Kristin O'Donnell, and welcome to Gentle Yoga this Friday afternoon. Before we get started, I want to say that Hands to Heart Center Yoga for the People is a nonprofit organization that shares the healing practice of yoga with people affected by addiction, poverty, and trauma in Greater Boston. Hands to Heart Center would like to thank the Boston Public Library for partnering with us on this virtual project. Thank you for joining me today. For props, if you have any, feel free to reach for two blocks or two books that are the same height. And if you don't have any props, no worries. I'll be giving adjustments for those of you who don't have props. If you do have any blankets or cushions you might like to have handy, feel free to reach for those during this practice today. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, feel free to find a seated or lying down shape. If you need to get a hold of me, feel free to type in the chat. And finding that seated or lying down shape in your own time. Maybe using a prop if you have a blanket. I'm sitting on a blanket. You can also sit on a block or cushion or book. Or finding a lying down shape. Taking a few moments to settle into whatever that shape may be for you today. And maybe starting to notice your breath if you'd like. You can also choose to notice your body, noticing any sensations or aches and pains. Another choice might be to notice what your mind is doing. Taking a few moments to maybe pause. And today I'd like to invite you to have a conversation with your body in any or all of the shapes that we move into during today's class. Now, you can choose to do that if you'd like or not. And what that means, conversation. Oh, that's my cat Marshmallow. It's feeding time, so she got a little frenzied, and you might see her later on today. So, what I mean by conversation with the body is we're going to move into different shapes, and whether you're moving or still, start to notice and listen what comes up. So you might notice sensations in different shapes. You might notice pains. If there's any painful feeling, please do get out of that shape. I do want to encourage you to only move into shapes that feel right in your body where there is no pain. And please know that this is your practice. You can move in any way that you might like, but you can always, in any shape you choose, come to that conversation with your body. So that might involve listening, maybe pausing, or if there's a continuous movement in your body, maybe listening from there. And you might notice sensations, any emotions or feelings that come up. Really noticing anything in your body that you can start to feel. So whenever you're ready, if you're lying down, maybe slowly making your way to a seated shape, taking your time getting there. And if you're in seated already, maybe taking a moment or two to check in once again, noticing how your body, your breath, and your mind might be doing before today's practice. Once you're in seated, maybe starting to add some movement. So you might start to move your head from side to side. Another choice might be to move your head up and down. Maybe even moving your head in circles. So finding any movement or stillness. You might even choose to pause in one spot, maybe taking a few moments there before moving on to the next location. So finding whatever feels right in your body, whether you're moving your head from side to side, moving your head up and down or in circles, or maybe you're finding stillness. And you can start with these movements or stillness in your head and neck by having that conversation with your body, maybe listening for what comes up. Are there any cracks or creaks or sensations that you notice as you're moving your head and neck? Or maybe if you're remaining still. Taking another moment or two, experimenting with movement or stillness. And whenever you're ready, slowly bringing your head back to center, finding your way back to neutral in your own time. And maybe experimenting with a few cat cows. So, in our seated shape, maybe inhaling, lifting your head and chest to look up towards the ceiling. And then, if you'd like, maybe on your exhale, you might choose to bring your head down towards your the floor or towards your belly and curve your lower back out away from you. So you can choose to breathe with this movement, or you can choose to have your breath and this movement separate. Maybe bring your head and chest to look up towards the ceiling. And then in your own time, maybe lowering your head down and curving your lower back. So if you'd like, possibly moving back and forth in your own time. Maybe there are pauses as well. So you might choose to pause in one shape or the other. And once again, if you'd like, checking in with your body, maybe even asking your body, how are you feeling in this shape? What might come up for you if we're moving in this way, or if we're being still in this shape? Finding that maybe your body will start to answer you. So, in your own time, whenever you're ready, starting to move out of any movement or stillness here, maybe slowly bringing your upper body to that neutral shape, back to seated. And in your own time, maybe starting to add some movement in your upper body in a different way. So maybe moving your upper body from side to side. You might choose to move your upper body forward and back. And another choice might be to add circles here as well. So possibly moving your upper body in circles, maybe moving in one direction, and then in your own time, you might start to reverse that direction. So again, you might experiment with moving from side to side, forward and back in circles, or maybe even being still and pausing in one shape for a moment or two. Finding whatever you might need in this movement. And whenever you're ready, in your own time, slowly bringing yourself back to center. Bringing yourself back to that neutral state. And if you'd like, maybe bring your arms up overhead in your own time, possibly bringing your right hand behind your back, left hand resting on your right knee. So moving into a gentle twist to the right side. Pausing here. If you'd like, you can start to lengthen your spine, maybe lifting your head and spine up towards the ceiling. And if you'd like, you can also choose to twist a little bit more. Maybe it's with or without the breath. You might inhale, lengthen your spine, and on your exhale, you might choose to twist a little bit more. So finding any movement or stillness in a twist to the right side. And maybe asking yourself, does my body want to go a little bit more, or maybe it doesn't? Taking yourself back to center in your own time. And whenever you're ready, maybe bring your arms up overhead once again. And this time, twisting over to the left side. Your left hand reaching behind you to rest on the floor, your right hand resting on your left knee. And twisting gently over to the left side. So from here, if you'd like, you can start to lengthen your head and spine up towards the ceiling. Maybe twisting a little bit more. So maybe moving with or without the breath. You might inhale, lengthen your head and spine, and maybe on your exhale, twisting a little bit more. Finding how much or how little of a twist you might like on this side, Taking a moment or two here, and whenever you're ready, slowly coming back to center. If you'd like, maybe bringing your right hand to your mat and possibly reaching your left hand overhead for a side stretch. So you might choose to stay here, maybe looking down at your right hand or maybe looking up towards the ceiling, pausing in this shape if you'd like. Or another choice might be to add movement. So maybe you start to come back to center and in your own time moving over to the left side. So your left hand might come to the floor, maybe your right hand comes up overhead. So, one choice might be to pause on one side or the other. Another choice might be to add some movement in this shape. So, maybe you choose to move from one side to the other in your own time. And once again, maybe pausing, asking your body what it might need in this shape. Does your elbow need to bend? Maybe you come down a little further towards the floor. Maybe it's a soft, gentler movement. Maybe you're moving a bit faster or slower than what I'm doing. So feel free to experiment with these side stretches, finding what your body might need. And then the next time you move over to the left side, whenever you're ready, slowly starting to come back to center. Finding your way to center in your own time. And finding that neutral shape in your back, maybe starting to move your arms. So, one choice might be to bring your arms out by your sides and then back in. So, maybe it's a continuous movement with your arms moving out and in. Another choice might be to move your arms in front of your body and up and back down. Or feel free to find any other variation. Maybe you choose to bring your arms up by your sides and meet in the middle and come down the center. Maybe you want your arms to move up the center and out. So, if you can, feel free to ask yourself if you'd like, where do my arms want to go in this movement? So, maybe asking your body where they want to move, where your arms want to move on their own, and allowing yourself to listen to what your body has to say. So, this might be the same movement every time, it might be a completely different movement every time you move as well. Really allowing your body and your mind to decide spontaneously. Letting whatever shows up be true for you in this moment. Marshmallow is gracing us with her presence quite a few times today during class. So maybe moving your arms a little bit more, maybe for another moment or two, and in your own time, slowly starting to bring them down, coming back to center. If you'd like, maybe starting to extend your legs out in front of your body. Now, I'm seated on a blanket, so if you are seated on a prop, feel free to move it to the side. And extending your legs out in front of your body if they're not already there. Taking a moment to pause. If you'd like, you can flex your feet. Once again, keeping your head and spine tall. I sometimes like to imagine a string holding the top of the head and pulling it up towards the ceiling. So if you can choose to imagine that string and notice how your head and spine start to reach towards the sky, towards the ceiling. In your own time, maybe reaching your arms up overhead. And whenever you're ready, slowly starting to fold forward. Now, your hands can fall wherever feels right in your body. Maybe it's your upper or lower legs. Maybe you can reach for your toes, finding whatever variation feels right for you and pausing in this shape. You might keep your back tall or maybe choose to curve your lower back, reaching down towards your legs. Maybe finding some stillness in the shape if you'd like, or you might choose to find movement. Always asking your body what it might need in this shape. Taking another moment. And then in your own time, whenever you're ready, slowly starting to come back to seated if you're not already there. Maybe starting to bring your legs a little bit wider. You can keep your feet flexed if you'd like. That can keep the legs active. And we'll do some upper body movements in this shape. So whenever you're ready, maybe reaching your arms up overhead. And in your own time, slowly start to move your upper body to face your right leg. Possibly starting to fold over your right leg. So this can be a small little forward fold. Your hands can rest wherever you'd like. And then in your own time, slowly coming back to seated, bringing your arms up overhead, coming back to center. We'll do that on both sides a few times. So maybe starting to move your upper body over to face your left leg. And then in your own time, slowly bringing your hands and coming into that forward fold, as small or as big as you might like it to be. And then whenever you're ready in your own time, bringing your hands up overhead and moving your upper body back to center. In your own time, feel free to do that 2 more times on both sides. Maybe slowly facing your right leg, lowering down, maybe pausing, maybe not, coming back to center in your own time, and then moving over to the left side, facing your left leg, folding forward. And whenever you're ready, coming back to center. Maybe doing that 1 more time on both sides, facing your right leg, folding forward. Taking your time with this movement, coming back to center whenever you're ready. And then one last time, facing your left leg, moving into that gentle forward fold, bringing your arms back up overhead, coming back to center, and lowering your arms back down. Feel free to walk your legs in a little, maybe giving your legs a little shake. You might shake your arms a little bit. And taking a moment to pause. You can keep your legs long. You can bring your legs back into easy shape with the legs folded. And one more arm exercise, maybe starting to bring the arms so that your palms are facing the same way that your face is. And then your elbows are bent. So I like to imagine that this is like a football goalpost. And then in your own time, maybe starting to raise your arms up overhead. You might pause here. You might start to make this a continuous movement, bending your elbows down until they come to that kind of 90-degree angle here. And then doing that a few times in your own time, raising your arms up, straightening your arms, and then bending your elbows, bringing them down to be level with your shoulders. Feel free to move as many times or as little as you'd like. This can be a small or a big movement, or you can choose to pause in one shape or the other. And then whenever you're ready, maybe doing that 1 more time, and then in your own time, letting that go, bringing your hands down to rest, maybe giving your arms a little shake. In your own time, we'll start to make our way to our hands and knees. If you do have sensitive knees, feel free to reach for a blanket or a cushion if you have one nearby. And then finding your way to rest on your mat on your hands and knees. Once you're there, maybe bringing your wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And as we did in seated, starting to add some movement in our cat-cows. So you might choose to bring your head and chest to look in front of you. Maybe there's a little curve in your lower back. This is one shape, so you might choose to experiment with pausing here. And the other shape You might start to lower your head down, curving your lower back up towards the ceiling. So you might choose to pause here as well, or if you'd like, you can combine both movements or both shapes into a movement. So maybe bringing your head and chest to look up in front of you. And then in your own time, lowering your head down and curving your lower back up. Choosing to move from one shape to the other in your own time. Maybe choosing to pause in one shape or the other. Allowing yourself to take your time, whether this is a movement or it's stillness, and maybe asking your body, what does it need in this shape? Does it need to pause in one shape or the other? Does it want to stay in continuous movement? Taking your time to ask and listen. In your own time, slowly making your way back to neutral whenever you're ready. So back to that neutral spine. And if you'd like, you might start to move your hips from side to side, making this as big or as small of a movement as you might like. Another choice might be to move your hips in a circle, where your hips make their way down towards your feet. A third choice might be to bring your head and chest to look up into your cow shape and maybe move your hips from side to side in that cow shape. So whether your back is in cow or your back is in neutral, moving your hips from side to side maybe. And you might choose to find stillness as well. Listening to what your body might want in this moment. And if you chose circles, feel free to do a few in both directions. Experimenting with any of these choices, maybe moving your hips from side to side with a neutral back, or with your back in cow shape, or moving your hips in circles. And in your own time, slowly making your way back to neutral whenever you're ready. Now, if you'd like, maybe possibly starting to sit your hips back towards your feet. If this doesn't feel right in your body, you can bring your forearms down in this table shape that we were just in, or you can find your way to seated in another shape, in that easy shape that we did earlier. If you start to notice your wrists bothering you, one choice might be to move each hand forward and back, maybe do some wrist circles. Another choice could be to interlace both hands and move them in a figure eight movement. So kind of like the infinity sign symbol. So feel free to move your wrist if you need to. And then whenever you're ready, maybe finding your downward dog. So you might come back to your table, hands and knees on the mat, possibly moving into your downward dog from here. Or if you'd like, maybe bringing your hands slightly forward. And then in your own time, pressing your toes into the mat, straightening your knees and bringing your hips up towards the ceiling. Now, from here, you might choose to stay still. Maybe you choose to add movement, maybe bending one knee and then the other, walking in place or walking your dog out. Another choice might be to move your hips from side to side. Or maybe a third choice is to bend and straighten your knees a few times. Finding stillness or any movement that you might like. And then in your own time, whenever you're ready, finding your way back to stillness, back to center, and slowly bringing your knees back down to the floor. So finding that table shape once again, bringing your wrists underneath your shoulders if you need to, if you moved them to get into your downward dog. And then in your own time from here, maybe starting to bring your right foot in between your hands so that you're in a kneeling lunge. And you can choose to stay still here if you'd like. I invite you to add some movement. So maybe you walk your hands forward, maybe your hips follow. Another choice could be to walk your hands back towards your left leg. Maybe your hips follow as well. So finding any big or small movement, maybe this movement back and forth is so small that only you know that you're moving. Once again, checking in with your body, having a conversation with your body, and asking, what do you need in this shape? What feels like what you want? What feels like too much? Where do I need to back off? And knowing that if it feels like too much, you can always move into something else that feels like enough. Maybe experimenting with movement or stillness for another moment or two, taking your time to notice. And then, whenever you're ready in your own time, finding your way back to center. So, your hands are on either side of your leg. You can also have your hands on blocks or books if you have those available to you. And from here, once you're in this neutral shape, maybe start to walk your right foot out to the far edge of your mat. So then your right hand comes on the inside of your right foot. So both hands are on the inside of the right foot. From the front, it might look like this. And feel free to pause in this shape. Maybe noticing how this shape feels in your body. Maybe you don't notice. You can also add a little movement if you'd like to add movement in this shape. Maybe moving forward and back gently. So finding where there's stillness or movement, maybe moving forward and back, or maybe being still. Taking another moment or two on this side of the shape. And whenever you're ready, slowly starting to walk that right foot back in between your hands. So if you were moving, coming to neutral first, and then bringing the right hand on the outside of the right foot. Once in this shape, you can also choose to stay here, or if you'd like, you can start to bring your hands to rest on your right knee. So this might take a little bit of balancing. Feel free to see if it's available to you. If you do have blocks or books, you can also bring them on a higher height and have your hands resting on those as well. And you might choose to pause here. If you want to add movement, you might choose to gently twist from side to side. Maybe your hands stay resting on your right knee. Noticing, if you like, how a twist might feel. Maybe this is nice and gentle, moving from side to side. Maybe you pause, finding whatever feels right in your body. And then whenever you're ready, coming back to center, maybe bringing those hands back down to your mat. You might bring your right knee to meet the left. So back to your table shape. And then from here, we'll move into what's called thread the needle. So I'm going to show you this in two different directions. So you might start to reach the right arm up overhead. And then when you're ready, bringing your right arm behind your left wrist and eventually resting your right shoulder and head onto the floor or onto a block or book. So from the front, it might look like this. Your right shoulder and head might be on the floor. Or if that's not available to you, you can use a block or book if you have one. And if it feels okay in your body, you can choose to extend your left hand towards the front of your mat. So finding whichever variation feels right for you. whether you're using any extra props, and taking a moment or two to notice the shape in your body. And whenever you're ready, if you did extend your left hand towards the front of your mat, you can slowly walk it back towards your head and use it to bring yourself back up to your table. Maybe lifting that right arm up to the ceiling and then back down once again. So finding your way back to table whenever you're ready. And from here, keeping your hips and legs where they are, slowly starting to stretch your arms out in front of you, maybe bringing your head down to the ground or to a block or book if you have one. Taking a moment or two to pause in your puppy shape. So you can also have your head on a block or book if that feels more accessible to you. Taking a few moments to pause. You can also choose to move your head from side to side. Any movement or stillness you might like, feel free to bring that into the shape. Finding your way back to your table in your own time. And whenever you're ready, maybe finding your downward dog once again. So you might stay with your hands in this table shape. You might bring them a little far forward. And then pressing your toes into the mat, straightening your knees and bringing your hips up towards the ceiling. You can once again add those movements, maybe walking your dog out, walking in place, maybe moving your hips from side to side or bending and straightening your knees a few times. Finding your way to whatever stillness or movement you'd like in this shape. When you're ready, coming to stillness if you're not already there, and slowly lowering your knees down to the floor. Both hands come underneath your shoulders if they're not already there. And then in your own time, you might bring your left foot in between your hands. If you need to, you can always grab those blocks or books to bring your hands and rest on those as well. From here, you might choose to pause and stay still wherever you'd like. Or if you'd like to experiment with some movement, you can move your hands forward, maybe your hips follow. Maybe your hands walk back towards your right foot. Maybe your hips follow as well. So as you did on the other side, you might choose as big or as little of a movement as you might like. You can also choose to pause wherever you might like. So again, finding stillness, letting this movement be so small that maybe only you know it's occurring. So once again, asking your body on this side, what would you like to do on this side? Maybe it's the same as the other side. Maybe it's completely different. Listening to your body, listening to what feels like too much, and moving away from that. And moving towards whatever feels good, whatever feels right in this moment. And then whenever you're ready, finding your way back to center, back to that neutral shape in your own time. From here, you might choose to walk your left foot out to the far left edge of your mat. Left hand and right hand are on the inside of the left leg. So from the front, it might look like this. And pausing in this shape, maybe adding some movement. You might choose to move forward and back slightly, or maybe allowing yourself to be still here. So again, finding what your body might need on this side. Maybe it's different than the other side. Maybe it's the same. And allowing yourself without judgment, with love only for your experience, being curious to whatever is coming up for you today, letting yourself witness it with wonder instead of finding judgment. And if you did have movement, finding your way back to center, back to stillness, and maybe slowly walking your left foot in between your hands. Both hands can be on either side of your left foot. Once again, hands can be on blocks or books if you have them as well. And you might choose to stay in this shape, or if you'd like, you can start to bring your hands to rest on your left knee this time. So one choice might be to stay here. If you feel you're a bit wobbly, you can take those blocks or books and maybe rest your hands on them in this shape. Finding stillness if you'd like, or you might choose to add movement, maybe gently twisting from side to side, allowing this movement to be fast or slow. Listening to your body, listening to what it might like to do here. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, starting to find your way back to the floor. So both hands on either side of your left leg. In your own time, bringing your left knee to meet the right back to your table shape. And then finding our thread the needle on the other side. This time, I think I'll show you from the front, reaching your left arm up towards the ceiling in your own time. And whenever you're ready, bringing your left arm behind your right wrist and eventually bringing your left shoulder and head to the floor or block or book. You might choose to stay here, letting yourself let go of any tension. And if you'd like, you can start to walk your right hand towards the front of your mat. So finding either variation in your body, pausing here for a moment or two. And if you did walk your right hand towards the front of your mat, you can slowly start to walk it back towards your head. Maybe use it to press into the floor. And if you'd like, you can bring that left arm up towards the ceiling once again, and then back down to the floor. Finding your way back to your table shape. And this time, maybe coming into child shape. So maybe keeping your knees together, or you might start to widen your knees a little bit, slowly starting to sit your hips back towards your feet. And then you might start to extend your arms out in front of your body. Your head might rest on a block or book or the floor. Whatever feels accessible to you, and taking a few moments to pause in this shape. You can always come back to that puppy shape if child's doesn't feel accessible to you, where your hips remain up in that table shape. So finding whichever variation you might like, and maybe adding some movement or stillness in your own time. Maybe walking your hands over to one side of your mat, maybe to the right side of your mat. And then in your own time, another choice could be to walk your hands over to the left side of your mat, pausing there. Moving back to center in your own time and slowly starting to make your way out of your child shape or your puppy shape, finding table once again. And then from here, maybe moving back into downward dog. So you might choose to bring your hands a little forward or keep them where they were, pressing your toes into the mat and straightening your feet, bringing your hips up. You might add some movement, maybe bending your one leg and then the other. Maybe moving your hips or bending both knees. And in your own time, coming to stillness whenever you're ready, And slowly bringing your knees back down to the floor. We'll start to make our way to lie on our stomachs. So if you do have a blanket underneath your knees, you can feel free to move that out from underneath you, move it off your mat. And in your own time, maybe start to walk out to that table shape and gently start to lower your upper body down to the floor. So finding your way to the floor as best you can. And once you get there, bringing your forearms to rest in front of your body. This is our Sphinx shape. So if you notice, I sort of look like I'm in that resting shape of the Sphinx. Taking a few moments to notice this shape. What does your body need or want from this shape? Is it asking for anything else? Does this feel good to you? Does it not feel great? You can choose to move out of it if you need to. Maybe relaxing your shoulders if you'd like. And then whenever you're ready, starting to bring one hand and then the other on the outside of your mat. Fingers are tented. So reaching both hands on either side of your mat, fingers tented, maybe bringing your forehead to the floor. And in your own time, maybe gently lifting your head and neck and chest up off the floor, and then lowering back down whenever you're ready. Doing that 2 more times at your own pace. Slowly lifting head and chest up, and then making your way down in your own time. And slowly lifting your head and chest up, and making your way back down to the floor in your own time. When you're ready, bringing one arm resting on the floor in front of you, the other arm, the hand rests on top of that hand, and then your head can gently rest with your forehead on both your hands. Feel free to rock your forehead from side to side, noticing how your head and neck might be responding. And then coming back to center with your head, another choice might be to start to bend your right knee. So you can bend your right knee as much as you like. Maybe it's in that same formation, that 90-degree angle that our arm was in those football goalpost arms. So the left leg is straight, the right leg is bent as much as you'd like it to be. If it's available to you, you can bend it as close to being level with your hip. And then letting your head rest, taking a few moments in half frog. Maybe adding some movement, moving your head from side to side. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, slowly bringing your right foot, your right leg to meet the left. So extending that right leg out behind you once again. And then making your way back to Sphinx. So you can bring your forearms in front of you, bending your elbows. Your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Keeping your gaze slightly in front of your mat. You can choose to pause here as we did before, or if you'd like, you can start to maybe bend one leg and then the other. Start to notice any movement if you'd like to add that in your body, or you can choose to be still. Keeping your gaze in front of you. And moving your legs as fast or slow as you'd like. And once you do both the right and the left, then coming to a stop whenever you're ready. In your own time, this time bringing your hands underneath your shoulders so that your hands are resting on your mat. Forehead might come down to the mat once again. You can bring your legs as close to each other as feels available to you. And then in your own time, a few of those baby cobras once more. So maybe inhale, head and chest lift up, and exhale, lower. So maybe breathing with the movement, maybe not. Doing 2 more at your own pace. Head and chest come up and then lower whenever you're ready. One more time, maybe head and chest come up and lower down in your own time. Now this time, if you had the left hand on the bottom, reaching the right arm across your mat, left hand rests on top of your right hand. Forehead rests on top of both hands, and this time moving into the other side, so bending the left knee. So I'm going to rotate so you can see what this looks like. So as we did on the other side, bending the left leg so that it's in that 90-degree angle if possible, and maybe bringing it level with your hip. And if not, finding whatever variation feels right in your body and giving yourself a moment to rest in this shape. Maybe rocking your head from side to side as it rests on your hands. Noticing what your body might need in this shape. Taking a few moments to ask and to listen. And whenever you're ready, starting to straighten your left leg, bringing it back to meet the right. Maybe keeping your forehead where it is, you might start to bend your knees and moving your legs from side to side in your own time. Finding that movement, or you might choose stillness in this shape. And then whenever you're ready, bringing your legs back to center, lowering them back down to the floor. Lifting your head, maybe bringing your hands underneath your shoulders and pressing your hands into the mat, making your way either to that puppy shape, so back to our table, extending the arms out in front, or into your child shape. So you might keep the knees together or widen them and then bring the hips back towards your feet. Arms extend out, head comes down. So finding that shape one more time, pausing there. Maybe adding some movement. You might choose to rock from side to side in either shape. Once again, asking your body what it might need in this moment. In your own time, finding your way to stillness if you're not already there, and eventually making your way up, maybe to table, maybe finding your way to seated, and in your own time, making your way to lie on your back. So getting there any way that feels right for you, whether you come to seated first, maybe pausing for a moment or two, and then making your way to the floor to lie down on your back in your own time. Once you make your way to the floor, maybe finding a moment to pause in this shape. If you'd like, feel free to ask your body how it's doing in this moment. Taking a moment to listen. And then in your own time, maybe starting to bend your knees, bringing your feet to rest on the mat. If you'd like, you can bring your left ankle to rest on your right upper leg, maybe pausing in this shape. You can choose to bring some movement by moving your hips from side to side. Another choice might be to bring your hands behind your right leg into figure 4, maybe flexing both feet, maybe including that movement if you'd like as well. Taking a moment or two on this side of the shape. And whenever you're ready, bringing one or both feet back to the floor, depending on which variation you chose. And finding your way to the other side, maybe bringing your right ankle to rest on your left upper leg. You might choose to stay here, maybe choosing to add movement, moving from side to side. And another choice might be to bring your hands behind your left leg, maybe flexing both feet, maybe finding that movement once again on this side. So, again, you can choose to do the same thing on both sides. You can choose to do something different, asking your body what it might be asking for, what it might need in this moment. And in your own time, slowly finding your way back to the floor, bringing one foot and then the other if you chose, depending on which variation you chose. Maybe moving both knees from side to side, almost like that windshield wiper movement. So imagining your legs are wiping a window a little bit, making this movement as big or as small as you might like it to be. And then finding your way back to center. If you'd like, you can hug your knees into your chest, maybe once again rocking from side to side. And if you'd like, maybe rolling over to your right side, bringing your right leg is on the floor, your left leg is on top. You might bring your entire body over to the right side if you'd like, or if you'd like to move into a twist, maybe extending your arms out in a T shape on either side of your body, or you can bend your elbows as well. That's another choice. And if you'd like, you can choose to move your gaze over your left shoulder so that your upper body is twisting in a different way than your lower body is. So finding that twist if you'd like, or maybe lying on your right side, taking a moment or two to pause in this shape. If you'd like, you can bring whatever movement might seem available to you. And then in your own time, finding your way back to center, maybe hugging your knees into your chest again. You might choose to rock from side to side. And whenever you're ready, bringing yourself over to the left side. This time the left leg is on the floor, the right leg is on top. You might bring your entire body over to the left side to rest on your left side of your body, or you might choose to move into that twist. So maybe extending your hands out in a T shape on either side of your body. Maybe your elbows are bent, and you can choose to bring your gaze over your right shoulder if you'd like. Taking a moment or two to add stillness or movement into this shape in either variation you chose. And then, whenever you're ready, in your own time, finding your way back to center. Maybe hugging your knees into your chest one more time if you'd like. If there's any yoga shape you would like to do that we didn't do, feel free to do so before the end of class. Or you can choose to pause with your knees into your chest, whatever feels available to you. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, you might make your way to lie down in your rest shape. So you might choose to lie down with your knees bent on your back. You might choose to lie down on your back with your legs straight. Another choice might be to roll to one side, maybe finding a restful shape there. If you have any blankets or cushions nearby, feel free to use them to help pad your body wherever you choose to rest. You might bring some blankets or cushions underneath your knees or your feet. Excuse me, maybe even underneath your head or your arms. Finding any resting shape that feels right in your body, and maybe using any props that you have to help support your body in that resting shape wherever you might need it. Maybe even taking one last moment to ask your body how it's doing in this moment, and what else does it need in this shape? What else does it need before the end of class? So finding whatever answer comes up, and if there is no answer, that's fine too. So knowing that if you didn't feel you could have a conversation with your body, that's okay as well. And then whenever you're ready, finding whatever resting shape you might like to stay in for a little while. You can always have continuous movement wherever you are, doing whatever feels available for you in this moment. If you'd like, you can close your eyes or maybe keep a soft gaze in front of you. Taking your time to find the best rest for you today. And then in your own time, whenever you're ready, I'll be quiet for the next 3 minutes. So feel free to move during that time. Feel free to be still. Feel free to use that time in any way that you and your body need to use it. In your own time, whenever you're ready, maybe slowly start to add some movement back into your body. You might start to wiggle your fingers or your toes. Another choice might be to move your wrists and ankles in circles. The third choice might be to bring your arms up overhead for a full body stretch. And then if there's any other stretch that you feel you might need in this moment, feel free to do that as well. Another choice might be rolling to one side, maybe taking a few moments to pause there, letting yourself come back into this room, to open up into the space once again. And in your own time, finding your way back to a seated shape whenever you're ready. Taking your time getting there, finding your way to seated. Whenever you're ready, maybe bringing your palms together in front of your chest. May the light within me honor the light within each of you. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me this evening. My name is Kristin O'Donnell, and I'm so happy to be here on behalf of Hands to Heart Center and the Boston Public Library. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.